We're live.
We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube. After some problems with StreamYard today, our topic is the uglier side of EVs, disposing of batteries. And with us, Ronald Stein. Ronald Stein is engineer, senior policy advisor for the Heartland Institute and CFACT, and co-author of a Pulitzer Prize nominated book, Clean Exploitations. Do you have the book to show to us?
I do. 1 second.
Yeah, sure. Aha. Here is the book.
Yeah, clean energy exploitations.
Clean energy exploitations. Great.
It
Fantastic.
talks about all the exotic metals to build the EV batteries. And we'll be talking about the EV batteries today.
Available in paperback and Kindle.
Yes.
Perfect. This is me, the moderator, Armando Cavagna. Please let me share, Ronald, some data that I made a compilation for today. 2030, the predictions are that we will have 300 million EVs. Some people saying that it's more than that, 500 million, but okay, 300 million. Considering that each battery, the weight of each battery is at least 400 kilograms, we will have 120 billion kilograms of batteries. And considering that each battery has 20 kilograms of lithium, we will have 7 billion kilograms of lithium for future recycling. It's a big number. And considering that to remove lithium and recycle lithium, it will cost $10, for instance, each kilogram. The amount of money is $7 billion to treat this asset. So my question for you to start our conversation, what are the impacts besides this one that you see with lithium for the next 5-10 years?
Well, my biggest concern about the lithium batteries is there's been no thought about, kind of like an afterthought. We're going to run these EVs on lithium batteries, but there was no thought about what do we do with them when they're done? How do we dispose of them? Do we have approved methods? Everything that you build with fossil fuels, they dissect to the nth degree. But this has, contaminations, fires, explosions, toxic fumes, contamination of soil. None of that was ever considered in the initial thoughts of going to EVs. And now that we're presenting with, the 500 million EVs. Well, each battery is 1,000 pounds, as you mentioned, and that's a lot of material that we have paid no attention to. It's just buy an EV, but what happens when it's over, or if it gets in a fire, how do you dispose? There's been no thought of processes, procedures,
Yeah.
facilities to be approved to recycle it, how to recycle it, how to do it safely. And yeah, this is all starting to come about because the EVs are beginning to age. And so some of them are, coming quote offline. And so what do you do with the EV batteries? And then the fires, in California, we had this recent fire that destroyed 12 to 15,000 homes and a lot of EVs, and they just burned forever and, made a toxic waste dump of the area. But, it's been kind of squashed. We're not going to talk about that. We're just going to sell EVs. you know,
This is a good point. What happened with wildfires in California? The recent one with
well, it was basically pushed by pretty strong winds. And, once one fire starts, it basically blows the fire to the next house. And, like I said, we just wiped out like 12 to 15,000 homes. And California, of all the EVs in the entire United States, about half of them are here in California. I mean, in my neighborhood, everybody's got an EV except me. And yeah, they're all over the place. And it's interesting. We just recently had a friend of ours visit us from Calgary, Canada, and she lives in a condo complex in Calgary. And Calgary's got pretty inclement weather in the winter, and they have underground parking. But if you have an EV, you are not allowed to park the EV underground.
Oh, yeah, really?
That's right. They're concerned about, if it starts on a fire, you know, it takes a lot of water because it's a chemical fire, and it takes a lot of water to cool it down, and the whole structure could burn before they ever get the fire out. So they just don't allow EVs to park in their structure.
Oh, it's very new for me. It's a surprise for me. So it must be on the floor level. So
Well, it's underground parking. And like I say, if it starts on fire, it could burn all the
yeah.
condos above it. So they just don't allow them to park there.
Oh my God. Paula Kerber uses us. Good evening, Paula. Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure. And let me ask you, sometimes you say that EV policies in rich countries is different from in poor countries, and some in the rich countries can affect the poor countries. What do you mean with this expression?
Well, basically, the only place you have EVs is in the wealthy countries because they're very expensive, and only wealthy countries can provide subsidies to help reduce the cost of buying an EV. And the poor countries, they don't have EVs. Armando, one thing that the big EV push is the fact that 80% of the world, and the world's pretty big, there's 8 billion people in the world, and 80% of that 8 billion, which is more than 6 billion people, are living on less than $10 a day. They're never going to have an EV. They may never have an automobile, which is less expensive. But where, and the reason I wrote that book, Clean Energy Exploitations, is all the exotic minerals, the lithium, the cobalt, is coming from developing countries that have no labor laws, no environmental laws. And so the wealthy countries are exploiting people that have yellow, brown, and black skin to mine for these materials, so that we in the wealthy countries can go green. And the environmental degradation, there is no environmental laws. The environmental degradation on their land's
Mhm,
atrocious.
mhm.
That's okay. We're going green. And the thing I find that really hysterical is that we're providing mandates, subsidies to buy EVs. We're basically providing financial incentives for China and Africa. Continue exploiting your people with yellow, brown, and black skin.
Mm, mm,
Continue the environmental degradation on your land. We're going green, and we feel good about it. I mean,
mm,
that is unethical and immoral, and it's an afterthought. People don't think about that. Just like they don't think about what they're going to do with the EV battery when they're done with it. If you have, a small battery like this,
mhm.
when it's done, you throw it in the trash. Well, you've got a 1,000-pound EV battery.
Yeah.
You're going to need 5 buddies to help pick it up.
Yeah, but this is a good point. Only to show that Eduardo Francis was asked. Good evening, Eduardo. Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure. But let me put a point for you. This future is coming. The projection is that we will have 500 million EVs in 2030. So there is no way to do different things. And
It's not going to happen. President Trump has negated the mandate for California to go to EVs. And of course, California is suing Trump for saying that. But no, I think the EV sales they're starting to fall off. EV manufacturers are going out of business. Musk is still around. Yeah, Tesla's still around. But no, the EV sale, as you know, the elites have bought them and the elites will continue to buy them. For Armando, we're running out of the elites, and now we're getting down to the common folk. And the common folk can't afford a second car. I mean, afford a single car. So it's a mandate that is it's an impossible dream. And I
It,
think you're going to see that coming to pass because the amount of EVs in California is well below the mandated,
yeah.
percentage. And yeah, by 2035, yeah, it's not going to happen.
You mentioned a time ago that every owner of cars, EV is the second car. There is no one with one car only that's EV, in EV. Oh, we have a problem. Sorry, guys. Let's see if it can return easily. Yeah, it's here.
I'm
He's
back.
here again. But that's the point. So the second car. So no one has only one car, and this car is an EV. Is it correct? Is it?
The people that have an EV, if they have very limited mileage requirements, they may have an EV and rely on it. But other than that, most of my neighbors have EVs. It's all second vehicles, and they're all parked in the garage.
Good, 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 good. There is a question. It's in Portuguese, but I can try to translate it. Paulo Kerber is saying that uh, uh, in other countries, batteries are extremely pollutant and is not allowed to be in underground. And she is sharing ESG. So exactly what you mentioned before. So cars cannot stop on underground, only on the level of roads.
Well, that's a concern. If they ignite and they could do it intentionally, I mean, unintentionally, or someone could start them burning. But once they're burning, they're a chemical fire, and they take tons of water. And to be able to get that water down there, to keep it cool, and then once you have it cooled down, it might reignite by itself. It's a very unstable system, and some of that was never given any consideration. And it's kind of like, now we have all the EVs. Now we got this toxic waste potential problem that no one's addressing. How to, destabilize them, how to take them apart. Can they be recycled? How much can be recycled? Yeah, recycling is, and there's no approved recycling sites. And, California with half the EVs, we don't have an approved recycling sites. We got ideas of how to do it, effectively, but are they working? No one really knows. No one's overseeing it. It's just happening, and it's out of sight, out of mind.
Based on your knowledge at this time nowadays, there is no good or appropriate treatment for lithium batteries at this time.
No,
No.
no,
Oh,
no.
oh.
There's ideas of how to do it. I mean, they tried to during the Pacific Palisades fires. The firefighters tried to, crush them and destabilize them, and yeah, it was a trial and error method.
And
Was it effective? I don't know.
in terms of safety, because is very let's say fire can be fired these batteries. It's very easy to put fire in these batteries.
Right.
So they are accumulated in some place, and this place is not protected enough to. How
No,
does it work?
no place is protected on to have a fire. In fact, the current protests that are going on in California today, they're basically igniting EVs, and they're in the street. They're burning until they burn out. This would be, a couple hours later. In the meantime, you got all those toxic fumes coming up in the air, and the metal's melting, and it's a horrific situation that I'm amazed that as much as Governor Newsom is so much environmentally conscious that he's not paying any attention to the
Yeah, no
environmental
attention about it.
potential
Yeah,
damages EVs
and
proposing to the public.
And Ronald, and about new technologies that are coming, sodium batteries and solid state batteries, you see that's are viable and they are really coming, or only scientific studies at this time?
I don't know the amount of power you need to run an EV because vehicles are pretty heavy and trucks are pretty heavy. So, the amount of power that this takes is minute compared to what a vehicle takes. And so the technology might work in an iPhone, may or may not be able to work in a vehicle. You're scaling it up to humongous power requirements. In fact, it's amazing that, like I say, the truck battery is, I think, is like 16,000 pounds.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I
I mean,
have this
8,000
number
pounds,
here.
sorry. Yeah,
Yes, for cars. No, no, it's the other one.
yeah. It's like 4 times bigger,
Yeah, 4 times exactly. 4 times
right?
bigger. Yeah, let me. Of course, people that are listening us at this time is curious about Los Angeles and California processes. Could you please talk a little bit about this protests that are coming, are going in the United States?
Well, I think Los Angeles has, I think, an estimated 1 million undocumented uh, people. And if you're undocumented, you shouldn't be here. And I know President Trump is trying to get the undocumented out of here. And Governor Newsom says, no, 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 you can't do that. So I don't know what's going on.
Sorry,
And they're
you're right.
organized and, they got a lot of sympathizers and followers. And so, they want the right to be here. But I guess Trump is just saying, hey, follow the law. If you're undocumented, get documented and, go through the right procedure and, be a legal, resident of the state. But, Biden let a lot of people in and, Newsom is, welcome, come on in. And they're very organized and, they have a lot of sympathizers following them. So it's a sad situation.
You see that can finish, can stop this protest, or can be long?
Well, as you've probably seen, it's starting to go into other states as well.
Yeah,
So there's, yeah.
yeah, that's right. Paulo has a question about hydrogen vehicles like Toyota. How do you see this solution?
Well, hydrogen is very expensive to make, and it's a technology, can you scale it? Because we got millions and millions of vehicles, and, if it can work on, one case or two cases, maybe, but scaling it up to, to meet the demands of society, I don't see that being achievable. And it's just like we can send a rocket to the moon. Well, that's a one-shot deal, and the fuels to generate that much power, but it's it's all trial and
So,
error, and the scaling is going to be the challenge
so,
anyway. Anything you do,
so the point for hydrogen is cost, is extremely
very very
costly.
very expensive,
Uh-huh,
very expensive, and
and
you want to make you
why
need
people
fossil
insist?
well you need fossil fuels to make the hydrogen,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and the big
yeah,
effort is to eliminate fossil fuels. You eliminate fossil fuels, you eliminate hydrogen.
yeah. It's a different grade
Actually, if
that
you
depend
eliminate
on
fossil
the
fuels,
color of hydrogen. Yeah.
you eliminate EV batteries because all the mining equipment is made with fossil fuels. It's powered by, you know, fuels and take the EV itself. EV is 100% made with fossil fuels from the tires, the computers, the wires, the insulation. So you eliminate fossil fuels, you eliminate the EVs.
But Ronald, if it's not viable in terms of costs, why people insist in this solution?
Well, I'm not sure people are insisting. It's governing the governing
Go ahead.
bodies that are making the rules. They're
Mm.
insisting on it. It's the Newsom, Governor Newsom is making the mandates and, providing, tax incentives, et cetera, et cetera. So, the elite are able to, buy into the philosophy of a zero emission vehicle. Of course, the emissions are not here. The emissions are where you mine for the stuff. And that's in China and Africa and in Brazil. And yeah, it's basically the emissions are elsewhere.
elsewhere. It's not in California. It's in
But
Africa,
it
China.
applies everything in California. We have the most expensive electricity in the United States. And we've done a great effort of shutting down all the coal-fired power plants. So we
Mhm.
import more electricity than the other state in the country. And most of that electricity is coming from coal-fired power plants on the other side of the border of California. It's just like, everything that's coming from, China. Well, emissions outside of California, that's okay.
But Ronald, imagine that in 3 years, new elections will be having in the United States, and Governor Newsom can win this. I know that you love him, but he can win this, and he can move against to the opposite situation again, and so we'll go in back. How do
Well,
you
Governor
see?
Newsom definitely has his eyes set on running for the presidency when Trump terms out. But I really think what's happening here in California, it's becoming very apparent that California is a national security risk for the entire United States of America, because a lot of products. We have three of the busiest shipping ports in the country in California, and those products get shipped to the rest of the country. And with all our airports, with military airports and the international airports and the terminals being run by fuels coming out of China, I don't think the Americans are going to buy into that. And, we're imploding. Like I say, our electricity cost is high, our fuel cost is high. And the thing that impacts the most people is the people in the middle class and the low income people. And so consequently, we're trying to raise the minimum wage. Well, that raises the cost of everything. And so, yeah, the middle class is disappearing out of California. It's either the upper class that can afford to live here, or the lower class that's doing all the work. And when you raise the cost of electricity, another thing. Let's talk about the EVs in California. Newsom wants to phase out gasoline. That's why he has the mandate to go to EVs. Well, California's a big state. We have 400,000 miles of roadway in the entire state. And gasoline taxes at present raises to almost $9 billion, which helps maintain those 400,000 miles of
Mhm,
roadway.
mhm,
Well, if we phase out gasoline, we're going to basically reduce this $9 billion to a much smaller number. And what is Newsom doing? He's putting heavier vehicles on the road, because EVs are heavier than gasoline cars. Heavier vehicles on the road, so the roads will be torn up at a faster rate, and we'll have
mhm,
less money to maintain them.
mhm,
And so the electric rates, which are the highest in the country now, they're going to have to make up that loss of $9 billion. So
mhm.
yeah, it's going to be tough to charge your
Yeah,
EV.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
or even to turn on the light bulb. So
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
it like I said, there's been no thought about the unintended consequences of making this
Unintended
decision.
consequence. That's right. That's
Because
right.
Newsom wants to get rid of gasoline. He's against fossil fuels. But gasoline is one product. Fossil fuels provide like 6,000 products. Besides gasoline, you got aviation fuel and diesel fuel and marine fuel and all the products that are made from fossil fuels.
Kerosene. Yeah.
He wants to get rid of gasoline. He forgot about the other 5,999 products that are driving economies and societies.
Yeah.
And so if you get rid of fossil fuels entirely, it's like I say, it's
Yeah.
endless. Because I think the fact that California is imploding, especially with these two refineries closing,
Uh-huh.
yeah, gasoline's gonna be very, very expensive.
But there are
And
still 14 refineries in
one's
California.
closing this year. Phillips is closing this year, and Valero up in Northern California is closing next year.
Uh-huh. Wow.
And they basically produce about 18% of the fuels for California.
Mhm.
aviation fuels for
So must
the
import from
military.
other states and from foreign countries.
Well, the thing is, California's energy island. We're separated from the other states because of the Sierra Mountains. There's
Yeah.
no pipelines over the Sierra Mountains for fuel. So if we need fuel, it's to be coming from foreign countries.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Paul is asking about this green agenda didn't come from the 20th century. Started there in 20th century.
Well, the green agenda has the repercussions is in I've been doing this for like almost 20 years. And I really wanted to stand up on the top of my house and say, I told you so, I told you so. Because I saw it coming. Because if you beat up on the oil supply, we don't need oil. We don't need it. We just need the products. But there's
Hmm.
no other way to make those products. And wind turbines can't make transportation fuels. All they can do is generate electricity. So we're a product driven materialistic society. And like I say, we don't need fossil fuels. We need the products. And right
Hmm.
now, there's no alternative to fossil fuels
There,
to make those
no alternative.
products.
At this time, there is no alternative.
Because
Maybe
when,
studying scientific research, but it's not available yet. Yeah. Uh,
yeah,
uh, uh, let me ask about market share, EVs market share in the United States, especially in California. Who are the main constructors and sellers? Tesla, BYD?
well,
Are there others?
Tesla's still
Yeah,
the biggie. Yeah,
they're the big. Uh-huh,
most of them are Teslas.
uh-huh.
And the
But
BMW makes EVs and Mercedes makes EVs, but yeah, it's primarily Tesla.
primarily one. And with these constraints between Mr. Musk and Mr. Trump, do you see that Tesla can reduce selling processes in the United States?
Well, they'll definitely do that. I think the fact that Trump is trying to eliminate the mandate, the government telling you what kind of vehicle to buy. And again, not only buying an EV, mandating to buy an EV, but the government hasn't decided how they're going to handle the spent batteries.
Mhm.
And I think that's totally failure of the government to, decide this because, if you're going to build anything, the permitting procedure is atrocious because they look at the detail of, how you're going to construct it and how you're going to deconstruct it.
Mhm.
And, but that's not been done with EV batteries.
So, do you have no expectations for new research and scientific solutions for this situation of batteries? Mm.
EVs have a place because, like United Parcel Services or FedEx. I mean, these trucks, they drive all day
Yeah.
long, but they don't drive any miles. I mean, they could basically be an EV and spend all day, doing their deliveries and go back home and charge up for the next day. But to impose it on the public and, a lot of people like to drive across country and, you don't know if there's going to be a charging station to charge your vehicle.
But Ronald, FedEx, Amazon, USPS, UPS, a long time they use EV trucks in the United States.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's very appropriate to them. If, like I say, they have a place, but to mandate them, that I think that's totally inappropriate. I think
Yeah.
the public should make the decision. If you're a low mileage person, you have a job
Yeah.
nearby, or maybe you're retired and you're just, doing your small
It,
errands,
it's
maybe an
applicable.
EV would be appropriate for you.
Yeah.
But to mandate it, because when people have to make a sudden trip to go 100 miles or something, and, you have to, oh my God, do I have enough power to get there?
And see that United States you have a big structure to develop this kind of technologies. In Brazil, for instance, it's totally impossible. So we have EVs here. We do not have Tesla. Tesla didn't enter in the country. Don't know why. But the structure is very complicated to construct here because you
Right.
need a high investment to do this.
Yeah, it should be driven by the public, not by the government, about,
Yeah.
what kind of, vehicle you're gonna buy. Um, The same thing, right now we have wind and solar. It's mandated by the government, but it's providing the most expensive electricity we have.
Yeah,
I think the public should demand, reliable electricity, cost-effective electricity, because the only way to come out of poverty is you got to have available, reliable, and inexpensive electricity.
yeah,
That will bring a lot of people out of poverty. And I keep thinking about, again, it's only the wealthy countries, kind of like less than a couple billion people in the world, but the other 6 billion people, we kind of forget about them.
yeah.
And I think that's unethical and immoral. We should find a way to get them to quote uh, join the industrial revolution and get, sanitation and clean water and, just the good things in life we just take for granted.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well, let's pray that Gavin Newsom can change his mind, and you can advise him to change a little bit the manner to think for
Well,
the
I think
future.
hopefully a lot of the subjects we've been talking about, hopefully that'll be part of the conversations when they have debates, down the road. And because I don't think he can explain himself out of it. I mean, California, when I talk about Newsom, I have two sentences. There's a 1 second pause between them. First
Uh,
sentence is Newsom is doing a fantastic job. Pause of killing the California economy. He couldn't do a better job. That's could be something he's going to have to explain when he decides to quote run for president.
you have a fun. Paulo Kevers said that I agree 100% with Mr. Ronald Stein. Oh, great. So thank you so much, and please try to talk to Mr. Nilsson to advise him. Oh, fell again. Okay. Uh, let's see if he can come back here. Is a California energy problem.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Oh my
Can
God.
can you imagine the surgeons having to check the weather report before he goes into
Oh.
surgery?
Oh my God. Need to have contingencies to support this fails, this shortage. Thank you so
But
much. It was a great pleasure to talk about EVs, batteries, and politics, of course.
just stimulate some conversations. That's the main
Yeah.
thing.
Thank you, Ronald.
Have a good
Fantastic day
day.
for you.
Take care,
Fantastic
Armando.
day. And thank you for the audience, everyone that makes some comments here for us.
Okay.
Bye bye. Bye bye.